Hello guys, TavHD here and welcome back to another video, and today we'll be taking a look at this. This is the computer which I got with that Apple Cinema display which I looked at in a previous video. This is how it came with its power cable. This was just shoved inside the box with the cinema display. I'm not exactly sure how it all fitted, but somehow it did. So today we'll be taking a little look at this computer. This appears to be the original power cable inside its original cardboard sleeve, which is quite nice. The Mac Mini here, if I take it out, is in its original plastic protection which it would have come in when it was new. Surprisingly, we didn't get an original box with this. However, we did get part of the original shipping box that this would have come in. The actual box for the Mac Mini would have gone inside here, I believe. So that's interesting that I got part of the shipping box but not the original actual box. Very strange, but that doesn't matter. It wasn't advertised as coming with a box, so it's not a problem. So what this Mac Mini is, I will discuss once I've taken it out of its plastic. It's quite nice to see this plastic has been kept. It's very rare that people keep that sort of thing. So here it is. This is of course one of the more modern Mac Minis, not one of the thick ones. This is a 2012 Mac Mini. This is a quad-core i7, 2.3 GHz, not the build to order 2.6. This will be plenty good enough for me. This right now has got 16 GB of RAM in it. Not sure if that's original or it's been upgraded. We've also got the standard 1TB hard drive and the Intel HD 4000 graphics. This is a pretty nice machine, much better than the 2014s which followed it. Most people think that. Of course, this was a quad core. All the 2014s were dual core. So why have I bought this computer? I'm not exactly sure. I'll be doing some experimenting with it to see what it can do. We're going to try some 4K video editing on it at some point. I'll be trying it out as a file server and all sorts of different things like that. This natively only runs up to Catalina, so we might use a patcher to see if we can get Big Sur on here. Of course, we will have to upgrade the hard drive to an SSD. That will be in a future video. My SSD for this should be arriving in about an hour, which is cool. So in a future video, we will be upgrading to an SSD in this. Of course, you can also get a special adapter which lets you put 2 drives in here, just like you can with the server models. This isn't a server, this is just a normal one, but we can still put in 2 drives with a special adapter. That's enough talking about it. Let's take an actual look around it. So here is the front power light and IR blaster. That has been taken off the new Mac Minis. On the side it's just blank, on the other side blank too. Top of course is the Apple logo, and on the back is where we've got our ports. This is a very nice selection of ports for an Apple computer. Power button, power input, Ethernet, Firewire 800, HDMI, 1 Thunderbolt 1. We've got 4 USB 3s, an SD card slot, audio in and out as well. That SD card slot looks very dusty in there, so I will have to give this a good clean at some point. So having Firewire on here really does start to show the age of this machine. It is 9 now, but it is still a very capable machine for a lot of people, so we will be finding that out in future videos to say exactly what this thing can do. That's pretty much it to look at on here. Of course, being a 2012, this is the last model which has a user removable base. Well, you can remove the base on the newer ones, but they don't have these bits to put your thumbs in, twist, and then take the base off. This has upgradable RAM, whereas the 2014 didn't, so that's a benefit to this one. Now, this RAM looks like it might have been upgraded by the user. You could get 16 GB of RAM with these machines new at Apple, but that doesn't seem to be Apple RAM. So it looks like the user has upgraded this at some point. I'm guessing this would have come with 4 or 8 as standard, and they've popped in 2 8 sticks to make 16. There's not really too much to look at in here. It's looking fairly clean, which is nice. I'm not going to take any of this apart today. There's no real reason. We'll do that in a future video when we put an SSD in it. I believe the hard drive is under there, so I'll have to do some research to see how to take this apart. But that's really all there is to look at in here. It's not really too exciting. So now let's put the base back on, just line up the dots. Let's turn, that's actually quite difficult. There we go, the base is now locked back on. So of course, since this has its original hard drive in it, it's not going to be particularly quick. As far as I'm aware, this computer is fully functioning, and that is what we're going to check out in today's video. This computer, when I saw the listing on eBay, it said that it was running macOS 10.10 Yosemite, but before it was sent out to me, the seller wiped the hard drive using internet recovery mode, and that put the original operating system back on here. So right now, this is running Mountain Lion, which is definitely a dated operating system now, and there's not going to be too much we can do within there. I do have the installer for Catalina on my MacBook Pro, but there's no real point putting Catalina on this hard drive if I'm going to be putting an SSD in it very soon anyway. So we're not going to do much messing around in the operating system. We're just going to make sure it turns on, make sure we've got what I bought, and just make sure everything is as it should be. I should also mention this was only £250 with that boxed cinema display. These by themselves I've seen go for 250, 300, and then cinema displays by themselves could be 150. So I think I got myself a pretty good deal as long as all this stuff works. Okay, I've now plugged in the Mac Mini. Apologies for the cable mess. There's not too much I can do about that right now. There's nowhere for me to permanently set this up, so I've just plonked it on this desk. I've plugged in keyboard, mouse, monitor and power, which should be everything, so I should now just be able to click the power button and this should boot up on one of my monitors. I'm not exactly sure which one I've plugged in, but 3, 2, 1. There we go, we got a bong and it seems to be booting up, and it's coming onto this monitor. I think that angle will be fine for this video. Of course, being a hard drive, it will take quite a while for it to load up, and it looks like it's nearly ready, and there we go, we have logged in. Okay, so we've got a user account called Mac Mini. I will put the password in, I know what it is. There we go, it looks like it's booted up absolutely fine into Mountain Lion. Now, it wants to connect to a Wi-Fi. My Wi-Fi is there, my mouse is working. This will be a test of the keyboard. That's my password. Let's see. Is it going to connect? It has indeed connected. So what can we do on here? This is an old operating system now. First off, let's go into about this Mac. Actually, first I will turn on zooming. That will make it a bit easier to see everything that is going on. Accessibility, zoom, let's do this. There we go, zooming is now enabled just how I like it. So first off, let's go into about this Mac. macOS 10.8.5, I'm guessing that is the latest version of Mountain Lion. Processor 2.3 GHz Intel Core i7. Memory 16 GB of 1600 MHz DDR3. That all looks fine to me. Copyright 2015, so yeah, 6-year-old this. Let's go into more info, and here we go, more info, that's the same thing there. Intel HD graphics 4000, serial number there, then software version there as well. I thought this was more than 768 megabytes for the graphics. I'll have to have a look into that at some point. Displays, we've got the display showing up that I've connected to. Storage, this is what we are going to upgrade later on in another video. 1 terabyte SATA disk, hardly anything on here of course because this has had a fresh install. That's all looking very nice. Memory here, 2 8GB sticks, very nice. Now this does all seem to be working so far, so I think what I'm going to do is open up Safari. This will be an old version, and let's just try and go onto YouTube. It looks like it's trying to load. YouTube doesn't seem to like this old version of Safari, which is completely understandable. I'm not sure if any modern web browser is compatible with this operating system or not. Let's try going on to a different website. Let's just try apple.com. The Apple website usually works on older Macs. Let's make that bigger. That's what it wants to do to make it bigger, just add a little bit to the bottom. Okay, we won't do that. Let's go to the UK site. It looks like it's kind of loading here. It's not bringing up the pictures. Let's just go into Mac and go to Mac Mini and take a look at the new one. So this web browser does not seem to like this. That's absolutely fine. I don't think any modern one will work on here either, so let's just forget that. Once we put Catalina on here on an SSD, that should work absolutely fine. Let's take a look at what we've got down here. Finder, Launchpad, just all the default apps on here. There's nothing to really explore. Mission Control, of course, it's the grey textured thing they did for a while. We've got Safari, Mail, Contacts, Calendar. This is after it changed from iCal. Reminders, Notes, Messages, FaceTime, Photo Booth, iTunes, App Store, System Preferences, and that is pretty much it. Let's go into the App Store because we've got a number 1 on it, and it looks like it's got an update, a software update for this. There's no real point doing it if we're going to be getting rid of this drive, so let's just ignore that. Now, I'm not too sure what else we can really do on this machine. It seems to be working. Alright, so at this point I decided that I would try and install Catalina on this hard drive. There's no real point, but I kind of just felt like doing it. So I dragged the installer that I had on my MacBook Pro, put it on the Mac Mini, and it wouldn't install from there because I'm running Mountain Lion and the installer needs Mavericks to work. So then I tried to use the terminal to make a bootable USB so I could boot from the recovery menu into that drive and then install it. That didn't work, so the bit you're about to see is when I resume and I have made a bootable USB on my MacBook Pro using a little bit of software. Okay, so I'm just waiting for my install disk to create. It's doing it quite nicely. I've just had a look at why it's showing up as having less video RAM than it should, and I believe this is the answer here. Two things affect the VRAM. So because we're running Mountain Lion, we will see the original VRAM as 768 megabytes. In Yosemite, that bumped up to 1024. Then El Capitan, it went to 1.5 gigabytes. So I'm guessing once we put Catalina onto the Mac Mini, we should get the full amount of video RAM. Rather strangely, I've just woken the Mac Mini up from sleep and it asked me to re-enter my Wi-Fi password, and I did, and it said it was wrong. So okay, I thought maybe I had mistyped it. I tried again, wrong, tried again, wrong. It will no longer connect to my Wi-Fi for some reason, so I've turned Wi-Fi off, plugged in an Ethernet cable, and that seems to be working just fine. That's rather strange and maybe something to investigate once the new OS is on here. Okay, so my install disk has now been created. It is here inside the Mac Mini. Of course, it won't let me click on it from inside the operating system, so we could boot to it on startup by pressing the Alt or Option key, but just to make it a bit easier because I'm not using an Apple keyboard, I can go into Startup Disk and select the one which I want. And it looks like it's not showing up. So it's not showing up there in Startup Disk, so we are going to have to restart it, and I will just hold down the Alt key just to see if this will bring up the boot menu. Okay, here is the boot menu. Let's go along to install macOS Catalina and let's see if this will actually load. If it will load, I might as well just install Catalina on this hard drive and then do it again when I get the SSD, just for something to do really. What I might do is partition this hard drive into two, keep Mountain Lion on one partition, then put Catalina on the other. You can tell this is a modern operating system because it's got the white logo on the black background instead of the white background and the black logo. We've also got the progress bar, not the spinny progress wheel. So I'll keep recording this just in case something explodes, but I'll just cut to the bits which are interesting. Now I'm pretty sure this computer does have USB 3 ports, and the drive I have used is a USB 3 capable drive. But because there is a hard drive in here, that's what will probably make it take its time when it comes to installing. But just loading up the installer here is being a little bit slow, but of course everything should be quicker once I put an SSD into it, and hopefully once we've installed Catalina I should get the 1.5 gigabytes of video memory. That should definitely help out. It looks like the progress bar has started again. Oh, that's going quicker now. Hopefully this should come up with the installer, and excellent, there we are. It looks like it's coming up quite nicely. macOS utility, so we can restore from Time Machine Backup, install macOS, get help online, or go to disk utility. What I'm going to do is go into disk utility to see if I can partition the internal drive into two. This is the internal drive, it's called Untitled for whatever reason. Let's see, partition, I want to put that into two. Yep, two 500 gigabytes should be fine. Partition information, so it looks like the second partition here is the one which already has Mountain Lion on it. So let's call this one, I've called that Mountain Lion, I'll call the first, I'll call that Catalina. So I think that should do. Let's click apply, partition like that, and that should now do that just fine. And I think the operation has completed. So we've now got Mountain Lion, which already has Mountain Lion on it, and Catalina is empty. So now what we can do is go to install macOS, and hopefully it will let us put it on the Catalina partition. Then we've got Catalina and Mountain Lion on here, which should be quite nice. We'll just agree to all that, and I would like to put this onto Catalina, and now it will install on that disk. This will probably take quite a while. Ooh, 13 minutes, 4 minutes, that's probably not very accurate. Wow, that progress bar is moving fast. It's about halfway done according to this, and it says 3 minutes remaining. It's only been about 1 to 2 minutes so far. I doubt this will be the entire thing, it'll have to do more after this, but so far it's going quicker than I thought. It has just rebooted again, and the progress bar is nearly at halfway now, and surprisingly the fan hasn't ramped up inside here, and it's not actually too hot. It's slightly warm towards the back, but nothing too bad. But then again, it's not really doing anything very demanding. But Apple computers being Apple computers, they like to get hot whenever they can, but this one so far is being quite cool, and that progress bar, that's moving quite quickly. It just turned itself off quite aggressively. The hard drive went clunk and went off. I think it's coming back on, but this will be interesting to see what it does now. It looks like it is carrying on booting, but that didn't seem very good. It just went clunk, like when you unplug a computer without shutting it off first. That was a bit weird. Hopefully it will still work. Okay, the progress bar has just shot up quite a bit, and we've now got an estimated time remaining. It says about 17 minutes remaining. Now, if that's true or not, I'm not exactly sure, but it does still seem to be working after it shut itself off. It's still loading, and I can hear the hard drive. It is making quite a lot of noise. I'm not sure if you'll pick this up, but I can definitely hear that it is still active, so it hasn't frozen yet, so hopefully it won't be too much longer. We just had a cursor there, now we've got a bit of a beach ball happening, and it looks like it's going to come up. I can move my cursor around, nothing is showing up yet, and here we go. Welcome. Let's now set this up. Alright, so where are we? We are in the United Kingdom. That all looks fine to me. Wi-Fi, let's see if this will now connect. Okay, so it still can't connect to my Wi-Fi for whatever reason, but I do have Ethernet plugged in, so it should be able to connect over Ethernet. Now that's interesting. I'm just going to ignore that for now. We'll just go through all of this. Sign in with your Apple ID. I won't do that for now. Will it let me just set up later? Let's just skip that. Terms and conditions, we've got to agree to those. Computer account, let's just call it not in capitals. Let's just call it Mac Mini, account name Mac Mini, password. There we go, continue, and now that will be making my account. Okay, we're just going to do an express setup. I won't be keeping this install due to putting the SSD in when I do that. Let's just go through all of this, not now. This really doesn't matter, I just want to get in to make sure everything is working as it should. We will go for dark mode, and now it is setting up my Mac. And here we are, it is coming onto the desktop. Okay, so I've just looked and it looks like Wi-Fi is now working again. I'll unplug the Ethernet from the back of the Mac Mini. Let's open up Safari and see if anything will load. So yeah, it looks like Wi-Fi is now working again and websites seem to be loading. So this newer version of Safari does seem to have made the internet work better. Let's try YouTube because that would not load at all before, and now it looks like it is loading to some extent. As you can see, it's loaded up perfectly fine, which is great. We now have working Wi-Fi, although I'll probably use Ethernet. Anyway, so the first thing I'm going to do now is open up about this Mac, and if you can see that, we now have 1.5 gigabytes of video RAM. Updating the OS has indeed given us the maximum amount of video RAM. All the other specs are still the same. I'll turn on zooming as well. So there we are, Catalina 10.15.7, that is the latest version. Mac Mini late 2012, 2.3 GHz quad-core Intel Core i7, 16 GB of RAM, startup disk Catalina, and HD graphics 4000 with the 1536 megabytes of video RAM. So it looks like Catalina has installed successfully and we now have the maximum amount of video RAM. I think that will pretty much be it for today's video. The computer seems to be working just fine apart from Wi-Fi, which seems a bit temperamental, but I'm not too bothered about that anyway. And even though this is a hard drive, it's not actually running too badly. So in the next video, I believe it will be, we will be installing an SSD into here, so make sure you are subscribed to see that. But everything is working just fine, and this seems to be a very nice little computer. So thank you for watching this video. Hopefully it was interesting in some way, and I will see you in the next one where we will install an SSD. Goodbye.